Hello, Charlie TCG here, and welcome back to the channel. Today's post-rotation list is looking at Mew VMAX, an already established, incredibly strong deck, but let's see what new techs it gets. So, it is already dominating Japan. As you saw from my last looking ahead video, link to that is in the description or on my channel if you click on it. It's absolutely dominating by being one of the best decks right now, winning most of the City League as well as the Hong Kong Regional. You can just see from its results, it's incredibly powerful. It's winning 16 events with multiple top twos, top fours, top eights. It's just as strong. It loses quick ball, but gains nest ball, so you guarantee you don't get to discard. You get something that goes straight on the bench, and it goes back to playing Featherball, which is an immediately incredibly good card because you can get your Mews for free because they have free retreat. Now, yes, it is still scared of Drapion, but Mew is just as powerful as ever with that incredibly strong cross Future Strike attack, letting you use any of your bench Future Strike Pokemon for a double colorless. So let's just look at the list. So we run a 4-3 line of Mew. I always go with the thing, you're never going to need more than 2 Mew VMAX. It's always good to run an extra one in case of prizing, or if you're using Psychic Leap, you have an additional wall in the deck. For those who don't know, Mew Mew VMAX, who's been sleeping on the rock for a while, it's just so powerful. The ability to run with Genesect, you could draw multiple cards per turn, and having Mew having free retreat and incredibly powerful attack, utilizing your cross Future Strike to use Techno Blast from Genesect, hitting for 210 damage, but you're on double turbo, so you're doing 190 for double colorless in fact. But you team that up with power tablets, so you're using as much of you're utilizing doing as high damage as much as possible. It's really, really powerful. And having such a high HP, and with Oricorio, with your lesson in Zeal, you had traditionally have 330 HP, which is really, really powerful. So the game plan is simple. You want to set up your Mews and your Genesect. You want to draw with your Genesect as much as possible, attack with your Mews, and have Oricorio as your kind of like your protection, just to add a little bit more HP. We have a ton of item cards, so luckily item lock isn't as powerful as it was. So we have like cards like Battle VIP Pass to guarantee your Genesect and Mews out as quick as possible. Or in the late game, they're amazing to work with Cramomatic. Cramomatic is a flip a coin card, but you get any card you want from your deck if you get heads. You're on your power tablet, so you have a high chance of like dealing like one-hit KOs as quick as possible. I've gone for a higher count of Ultra Ball compared to Nest Ball and Feather Ball because Ultra Ball guarantees you a way to get Mew VMAX. And I really like high counts of Ultra Ball, ways to discard like some Battle VIP Pass, some useless pieces, which is really good. I've gone for a high Nest Ball count. I run 2 Nest Ball and then 2 Feather Ball. I like to run like 2 of each purely because they're not guaranteed you're always going to get them. Feather Ball only works with Mew VMAX and Mew V, whereas Nest Ball works for everything except Mew VMAX. So it's like a good little one card, like a search item, and you're not discarding anything, and it's really good. Switching out, we do run 2 Escape Probe. I always love Disruption if you're playing a list. You want to disrupt your opponent as much as possible. Mew is always about disruption, especially as you can see, we're running past the peak. And Escape Probe is that perfect item. But also our other switching outs, we're not running Switch or Bird Keepers because Bird Keeper has rotated. We're running Cross Switcher. Now, my reason behind running Cross Switcher, as we're such a heavy Judge Path deck, you want to really disrupt your opponent as possible. So not really going to have option to use Boss or Serena as possible. So Cross Switcher guarantees your switch effect, so you can reuse Techno Blaster and attack with Mew. And you can disrupt your opponent with Judge or Roxanne and play your Path to Peak. So I really like this. It's meant to be as disruptive as possible. Limit your opponent so they're not going to get as much resources as possible with their Judge, and then you cross switcher to get guarantee like you get that Pokemon as they boss over because you're drawing it with Genesect. Now I know I've spoken so much about all these different item cards as well. What is the disruption part of the list? So we're running 4 Judge and 1 Roxanne. The idea is you want to try and judge every single turn and try and play Path to the Peak out of play to limit your opponent with playing abilities. But Charlie, we're also an ability deck. That's okay, we run Lost Vacuum. This is why having high counts of some item cards like Battle VIP Pass and Ultra Ball is really good, because you can have to put a card in a Lost Zone to Lost Vacuum away your Path to Peak, draw the cards you need for the turn, get down your other Path to Peak later after you draw the necessary requirements you might need. So that's kind of the idea of Mew. The idea is you just judge, Get your opponent in down as low as possible with the hand size, disrupt them with Path to the Peak and Cross Switcher, and just try and attack and hit hard. Mew has just been this powerful for so long, especially with all of this new text. Now, we only played 2 new cards, which is Nestle and Avon. I like Avon because it's an item card and tool card, so you get your Forest Steel Stone. Forest Steel Stone works really well because you can use it through Path to the Peak on your Genesect. And it lets you search for any card you need from your deck, which is just too good to pass off. We do run 1 copy of Lost City. I think Lost City is still good. If you battle against a rogue Reggie Gigas deck, you can help against that, or especially against Lost Box or a rogue Drapion. Getting this Lost City out is so powerful, especially to get that 1-hit KO. With having the choice belt as well, it just works really well with some of the Mew numbers. We do only run the 4 double turbos. No other sort of energy counts we might need. We're trying to slim down, make it as slim as possible. Having the 4 double turbo makes you draw into it with as much as possible for your Genesects and for your judges, as well as your easy to attachment to your Mew. So it's kind of a very straightforward Mew list. This is the list which has actually performed a lot better in Japan and in post-rotation formats, purely because you're not relying too much on Meloetta. Meloetta, I feel like, does need a bit more to set up, but can help with certain matchups because you have a 1-prize attacker. Whereas this one, you're meant to try and every single turn disrupt your opponent with Judge and with Path to the Peak. So let's look at some matchups. Your positive ones, I believe, are definitely Miraidon, Arceus, Palkia, and Gardevoir. These are quite easy matchups, I would say, over the board, purely because Mew can set up much quicker than them and start hitting really hard. Gardevoir can be a bit tricky, especially sometimes with Palkia, because it can just sacrifice 1 prizes whilst they can sometimes get 2 prizes. So you just got to be really careful with that, especially as your Mew. You want to always go over after the 2 or 3 prizes, because if you're attacking with these incredibly powerful ones, you don't want to trade 3 prizes for 1. You want to go 2 for 3 or 3 for 3. You want to try and get them really established a race, and you can really do that. I said something that's negative. Lost Box, I would still say it's 50-50. They are focusing a load more onto dark types, especially now because of how powerful Mew is and Gardevoir. So they're trying to KO and trying to match up the best as possible. So you're going to see a lot more Drapion. There's going to be 1 or 2 copies. I would say primarily 1 in most Lost Box and some Tina builds, but I would definitely be on the lookout for that. It is still winnable, but again, they're 1 prizes. If they put down with 2 prizes, you want to really utilize your Lost City. That gives you the better matchup. That gives you the answer to Drapion. If they're playing 2 copies of Drapion, that's when it could be a bit tricky. But if they're just playing a 1 and you can Lost City it and they take a while to try and get a KO, and you just Psychic Leap to try and constantly heal, you're in a much favorable situation. Tina, I've put down as a bit of a negative because they can just go attack with Drapion, get a KO on the Mew VMAX that way, and then use its Star Requiem attack to get the KO on the 2 Mew VMAXs. They're really, really struggles, I feel like, Tina. I would say you're in a much better matchup, a bit more now when I was initially thinking about it, because Mew just beat Hong Kong Regionals. It just beat a Tina Lost Box. But again, I would still say it's a bit favored towards the Tina build because they have a lot more answers. Similar to how I think Lugia V-Star can be a bit tricky. I know these are one of the 3 top decks and Mew has a bit of a tricky time with them. But Lugia, again, if it gets set up, it hits for weakness with a Tyranitar, and that can be a real big of a problem. If Mew can keep up and try and keep up the prize race, I would say Mew is in a really good spot. But because they're going to attack the Tyranitar, it's easy to power up. Mew can just really struggle with that. And that's why I feel like Lugia is going to be on the rise now, and Mew can kind of a little bit fall back. But Mew is still competing to be the top 1 deck. So again, this is a short little brief reason why I think Mew is so good, especially that Cross Fusion Strike attack to utilize Techno Blast or Psychic Leap, or even heck, Max Miracle. Just using those attacks to try and be as powerful as possible. Your Disruptive, your Path to the Peak, your Judge, your Lost Vacuum, and trying to get all your cards out with Cramomatic, Avon, and Lost Forest Steel Stone is really, really powerful. Don't sleep on Cross Switcher. I really like Cross Switcher in the deck, especially as a way just to guarantee you can be disruptive with Judge and Path to the Peak. Instead of utilizing a boss, you can use Cross Switchers to draw into it through Genesect. So that is my rough look at Mew VMAX, sort of like my thought process, why each card is there. a kind of its rough matchup, and how I feel like the deck is as a whole. I think it's in a really good position going into post rotation, and it's only going to get stronger as we see how the sort of format develops. If you're new to the channel, consider subscribing. It costs nothing, and if you change your mind down the line, that's absolutely okay. Leave a like if you enjoy this video, and I will be back in a few days with another video. See you guys soon. Peace out.